Hello, good morning, and welcome back to ReFest, the Festival of Research at the University of Salford. My name is Andy Meir, and across the festival, we're going to have a number of morning sessions with researchers from across the university. And it's my absolute pleasure to welcome in our guest for this morning, Dr. Yeliz Pryor. Good morning, Yeliz. How are you?
Thank you very much. It's all my pleasure to be here, Andy.
It's
Nice to be
fantastic to
here.
have you here. It's the first time we're also going live on the university channel, which is really exciting. And I think it's great to have you, especially because your research covers so many different things. Tell us a little bit about what you do and what you're working on at the moment.
Yes, I'm classic jack of all trades, I guess, because I'm an occupational therapist by background, but then I trained also as a cognitive behavioral therapist and mindfulness practitioner. So essentially, I'm interested in management of chronic long-term conditions and well-being in general as a preventative health measure. But I have a history of prior to becoming a therapist, many months ago or years in digital IT. So, and I used to write programs. And so what I did is I kind of met my two interests, and which turned into digital health and mobile health technologies. And because there's so many opportunities now to sort of communicate therapeutic strategies, well-being strategies through online technologies, and your people are wearing wearables. So I'm interested in behavior change through therapeutic strategies mainly.
And that's such a big topic, isn't it, at the moment? It's something that I think is covering all aspects of our society, especially I think over the last sort of year and a half, where we've had to do so much that has been digitally led. How much have you seen change over the last 15 months? It's been a very different period of time.
It's just been amazing. It's been, I mean, obviously the country or the world turned upside down, but I'm an eternal optimist. I think there's always something positive comes out of everything. And if anything come out of COVID as a positive, which is, really hard to see, you have to look really hard because obviously it's been a really hard time for everybody financially, people losing their loved ones, being isolated. Well, what happened in the NHS, because I also work in the NHS as a clinical academic lead in a rheumatology department, what happened in the NHS is a massive step up. Everybody stepped up in terms of digital health and digital technologies. There was a lot of reticence before in the NHS using, because of the data protection or staff training. And you have to do a lot of investment into the infrastructure to sort of bring in the cameras and microphones for remote online therapies. And it's happening everywhere now, which is amazing. And it's happening very well and has already been tested as well for effectiveness. We've seen a lot of research coming in. I mean, it blows my mind when I look at how much science is already coming in all through the COVID period, that how things have changed. And perhaps things have changed for positive as well. Yeah, I'm desperately looking for the positive.
Yeah, I think we absolutely all are. And it's wonderful to hear how much you're doing across different sectors. I think one of the big things we do at Salford University is involve ourselves in a range of different sectors, not just the education sector, but whether it's health, culture, the arts, engineering industries. And so to hear what you're doing is fantastic. And I think I've been really proud of what the university has done over this period, especially I have to see we've now set up a vaccination clinic at the university so students can get vaccinated, which is really exciting. And I think a wonderful way to make that contribution. And I remember at the start of the COVID period as well, we had an opportunity for staff to then volunteer as well, which was really great. And so you oversee quite a bit of our postgraduate research. Tell us a bit about that as well.
Well, at the moment, I'm a program lead for EPSRC-funded Center for Doctoral Studies in Prosthetics and Orthotics in School of Health and Society. And this is a really prestigious funding for the whole university. It's our first CDT. And we have funding for 40 PhD students, and these are all four-year PhDs. So the first year is taught is like a master's, and then you have 3 years, but it's a 4-year PhD. So just that's what we try to do. We get people from all different scientific backgrounds, from engineering, from biomedical sciences, from therapies, allied health, nurses, And we put them all together, and in the first year we have to level them up with the sort of fundamentals of prosthetics and orthotics. And it's just such a dynamic and interesting course. So there's only sort of 12 to 15 in a cohort, so it's very small. But what we do is in the first year they spend in Salford, and then we have other universities in partnership with us, like University of Southampton, Imperial, and Strathclyde. And what do students do then? They just go back to their home institutes on the second year. But we come together quite a lot. And next week, we're going to all together to Lake District for a summer school. Well, we're supposed to go to Cambodia, but under these circumstances, it's not happening. So we thought the next best. So yes, I love spending time with students. I got about 8 PhD students myself, and I was a postgraduate director once upon a time. So I love that student contact and being with them. It just reminds me, why am I doing what am I doing?
I mean, I have to say, having done a PhD, that sounds like a dream job. I mean, it's a fantastic opportunity for postgraduate researchers to be amongst so many different people from different backgrounds and different expertise.
Absolutely.
And yeah, I'm very envious of their lives, I must admit.
I know, I remember we used to say when I was a PhD student, which is how I met my husband, we used to be stressed and think, oh God, I can't wait to be PhD to be over. And our supervisor used to say, oh no, just this is the nice bit. But I just think whatever you have at hand, you focus on, and it's a challenge, isn't it? So I don't think it's easier or difficult postgraduate life. I think it comes as a Freudian slip because I love research and I enjoy every bit of it, but I also enjoy the challenge because once you overcome that, it's just such a, buzz you get from saying, I've done it.
Yeah, absolutely. But it has changed so much. I mean, for those that are joining us for the first time, this is ReFest, the Festival of Research at the University of Salford. And these morning lives are to kick off the day where we've got a whole range of things taking place. Today, we have the doctoral research conference taking place. It's the second day with presentations from students from all over the university. And we've also got an evening event as well today, which is fantastic. And if you want to find out more about the festival, you can go online and take a look at the program and register for anything that's coming up. But I think, Yeliz, for me, what's been incredible over the last few years is just how much that postgraduate research life has changed. I'm very proud, we're going to have later on in the week a graduate of ours who's just completed his second PhD. So he did a first PhD in genetics and then did a PhD with us in science communication. I know. And he's now just been promoted at Napier University as associate professor. And over his entire PhD with us, he did so many things. And I think it's an incredibly rich life. I think it's partly because there is much more expectation and desire to have an impact on society beyond just the research, isn't there?
Well, I mean, research is a bit like my first degree was in fine arts,
Wow.
back in Turkey. So, and my daughter going to university to do the same now in September, which is crazy. But so we all multifaceted, aren't we? We're not all, and we all do research for a reason. So I always think of the word, is art for people or is art for art? And it's the same for research. There's the importance of that scientific value, what you add into the science and the community. But in the end, what difference we're making into people's lives. And this is what I love about the research I do at School of Health and Society. Is very applied, and we see the impact almost immediately, which is unseen in especially health in the NHS. It could take anything to 8 to 15 years for interventions to be realized in the NHS. But as a clinical academic, I'm just able to develop the interventions with the patient and public involvement and engagement. And then they are more contextual and more applicable. And then you just basically just continue as research, flourishes, immediately implemented in the NHS. And that's why I love it. I have one of my feet in the NHS and the other in the university.
That's so interesting. And I think for people that aren't researchers or are thinking about this as career options, perhaps, understanding your journey is really interesting. So you started off with fine arts as undergraduate. Tell us about your process to becoming a researcher.
Oh gosh, it's a very long process, but I think that's what made me who I am, which I love. So I don't kind of think, I'm glad that I did it that way. So it's a winding road I did a fine arts degree. I went to university at 17. and in Turkey. I'm from Istanbul, Turkey. And then 21 years ago, I came to UK, and I was working in IT, information technologies, and then I had my kids. And when I had my kids and I saw how midwifery worked in the NHS, I was so impressed, because we didn't have anything like it in Turkey. And I was like, well, all of this is free. This is amazing. Like, these people is like private healthcare. And I had this really urge to work in the NHS. And then I looked at the career options, which one was more available. I've never heard of occupational therapy, and I had some shadowing days with different therapies, and I've chosen occupational therapy. And I came to Salford and did my degree at Salford, and never looked back. So straight after my degree, I got a PhD studentship in Arthritis Research UK at Keele Medical School, Keele University down in Stoke. So I did my PhD, and when I finished my PhD, I came back to Salford as a research assistant, and that was 10, 11 years ago. So, and it's been a really enjoyable roller coaster since then. And, you never know what's there on the corner.
Yeah, it sounds like it. And certainly the work you're doing is of such great importance. I mean, the EPSRC Centre is, I think, fulfilling a huge need within society, because I know that a huge proportion of people that require prosthetics don't have access to them. And I've seen a lot of things over the last few years about things like, I guess, DIY prosthetics and DIY maker movements, people that are trying to expand access to prosthetics. Tell us a bit about those sorts of agendas around the centre.
Yeah, so the centre is about both about prosthetics and orthotics, because yes, you're right about prosthetics, and same with the orthotics, that people don't necessarily get access to, and when they get access to, they don't get access to right orthotics. And if you look at the research behind, it's lacking, especially things about from the patient perspective, because a lot of prosthetics and orthotics are sort of designed by engineers, and it's been, I mean, there's lots of research behind them. So what we try to do with CDT, bring the healthcare professionals and that patient perspective into prosthetics and orthotics. And it's not just the UK-wide. So we are 4 universities with this funding, and we have international students. So I have a new PhD student from Tanzania. She's starting in October. We have students from Cambodia, all over the the Nigeria, and we tend to go to countries where prosthetics are much needed, and perhaps they get through charitable funding access to sort of standardized prosthetics as well, but not necessarily specialized equipment that is needed. But there's always that ethical question whether it's better to not have some than any. And but the research behind, that's what we're interested as well. How can we actually both increase access to prosthetics and individualized prosthetics and orthotics, and individualized therapeutics and wearable technologies, and how can we measure the impact of those to improve them even more, to increase people's quality of life, decrease costs, healthcare costs.
That's fantastic. So tell us a bit more about the wearables, because digital health is a big part of research at University of Salford. Tell us how that interfaces with this work.
So we are very lucky at Salford, in especially School of Health and Society. So we have our academic directors. So we have Professor Chris Nestor and Professor Malcolm Granite. And so Professor Chris Nestor's background is podiatry and biomechanics, and Professor Malcolm Granite is movement technologies and wearables, and is all music to my ears. So that my background is rehabilitation and health. So what we are looking at as well, how can we, for example, measure better outcomes for, let's say, prosthetics and orthotics, linking this with wearable technologies. So you are getting both objective and subjective input, because with wearable technologies, it's not just, they don't just measure the bodily functions or your movements and steps. Most people know, the Apple apps measures, but you can actually interact with this. Now you can put how you feel, let's say if you have pain, how severe it is, or if you're having you're tired, you got fatigue. So we get in the patient perspective and looking at the data both ways in that. Recently I was involved in developing a self-management app with a company called Ampersand Health. It's a social enterprise, and they got a research grant to do this. And I developed, in conjunction with them, two modules of 2 weekly courses, online courses for self-management of inflammatory arthritis. So people then go in and do like 10 to 20 minutes sessions, and then do practices, and then enter their stats into the app. So they can actually see the trajectories as how they are improving as they improve their self-management strategies. The best thing is it's completely free. And it's free to the user. And in the NHS, if your trust is using it, you can link it with your NHS records. So everything is becoming more transparent. And the more the patients or people with long-term conditions are involved and informed, the better they can make those behavior changes required, I believe. So I feel really passionately about wearable technologies.
That's fantastic. It's such important work. And I wonder, maybe one of the consequences of the COVID period is more people feeling a bit more confident using mobile technology, where they've had to do things like track and trace. And I just noticed in the NHS app now, you've obviously got the COVID sort of passport, which is controversial, but I must admit, being able to access my medical records directly is a really empowering experience. And I think hopefully this will be where we take the technology in the future. You know, it's been absolutely wonderful to have you here to talk about your research. I love hearing about the journey that you've been on to get to where you are, and the EPSRC Centre is just phenomenal. I believe you're going on a summer school trip soon.
Next week. Yeah, looking forward to Lake District.
That's amazing, and a wonderful way to sort of hopefully round off a year that's been certainly very difficult for everybody, but hopefully we're moving on to brighter things. So thanks so much for being here. Good luck with the summer school.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.